going to impart some wisdom on you.
On me?
On you and everyone listening, because I'm aware that we're recording. This isn't candid. I don't think I've ever told you about the most human thing I've ever seen.
What is that?
And this was, I believe it was like a Martin Luther King Day or something.
Oh, it's an apt day.
Not really. It's irrelevant to the story.
Okay.
It's not really irrelevant, but it's not deep. It's not race. It's not a race issue. I was driving down the road, and it was Martin Luther King Day, and I saw a man walking into his mailbox.
Okay.
And I knew in my head, that man doesn't have mail. No one has mail today. Federal holiday. And he gets to his mailbox, and I see him open it, and he does this look on his face like, I'm the biggest fucking idiot in the world. He just goes, "Ugh," and starts walking back to his house. And I thought to myself, that's incredibly human. I think being human comes down to fucking up all the time and thinking, man, I'm the biggest idiot in the world all the time. And that's what it means to be a person. Hopefully fucking up enough times that you realize at the end of the day, you're kind of an idiot, but that's okay. Because so are all of us.
La 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 la.
Here we go.
It's the Bible reloaded, tragic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up a new and stop what you're doing, it's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theist will hate it, like talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So I'm with the show then, it's not candy coated, it's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake. With Hugo and Jake.
Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I am Jake.
And this is the Bible Reloaded, the Atheist Bible Study.
That's twice. That's
Twice in a row. I think it's good because some people probably just click on our videos randomly like, what the fuck's the Bible Reloaded? Now you kinda know. I mean, it's in the title, but still.
Maybe they think that it's going to be like an official breakdown of the Bible and like we're scholars, though.
We're the equivalent of shitty midday shock jocks, but on YouTube. Isn't that sad? We're the Opie and Anthony of the Bible.
Welcome to Hugo and the Badger.
Hugo and the Badger.
Badger.
Woo!
Boink. That's what it would be like.
That's what it would
this
be like
was
if we were
radio.
on the radio.
Yep.
You're welcome. So, last week, if you
I'm the Badger.
You're the
Why
Badger.
am I a Badger? I've made peace with it. I don't.
So last week, David had to flee the kingdom because his son Absalom had taken over. There was basically a coup, and he took over the country, and David's biding his time in the wilderness until he can come back with a vengeance.
More importantly, Absalom fucked 10 concubines on a roof tent.
Yes, he took his father's old concubines, and in order to assert his dominance over the country...
He did it with his dick.
So today we're following up on that story and seeing what happens and seeing Absalom die, because you can't fuck that many concubines and not expect to get the clap. Today we're beginning in 2 Samuel, chapter 17. Now in those days the advice of Ahithophel gave was like that of one who inquires of God.
Oh.
That was how both David and Absalom regarded all of Ahithophel's advice.
Like people who inquire of God, but not people who do.
So he's just really wise, but God's like, he's got this. He's got it. He doesn't need me. Ahithophel said to Absalom, I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. I would attack him while he is weary and weak. I would strike him with terror, and then all the people with him will flee. I would strike down only the king and bring all the people back to you. The death of the man you seek will mean the return of all. All the people will be unharmed.
This is a good idea.
I know, this is better than any plan David's ever had.
This is crisis management 101.
Like one casualty.
Yeah.
I think David's minimum casualty level was like
1,000.
3,000.
Yeah.
I'd say 3,000, but whatever. This plan seemed good to Absalom and all the elders of Israel.
Consensus.
But Absalom said, summon also Hushai the Archite, so we can hear from him what he has to say as well. Which is weird, what's his plan gonna be? I think he should kill all of them. When Hushai came to him, Absalom said, Ahithophel has given this advice. Should we do what he says? If not, give us your opinion. Hushai replied to Absalom, the advice Ahithophel has given you is not good this time.
Oh.
Oh. You know your father and his men. They are fighters, as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Who the fuck is robbing cubs from bears and attacking her for sport?
The one guy he knew who was a bear thief, and his name was he was Jimmy the Bear Thief, and he had the boys with him, and they would go out onto the trains, and they would go into the forests, and they would steal bear cubs, and they'd be like, "Ha! Tell them Jimmy and the boys did it!" And then a bear mom killed him.
It's quite a narrative you just wove.
It was Jimmy and the boys.
Besides, your father is an experienced fighter. He will not spend the night with his troops. Even now he is hidden in a cave or some other place. If he should attack your troops first, whoever hears about it will say, "There has been a slaughter amongst the troops who follow Absalom." Then even the bravest soldier, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt with fear. For all Israel knows that your father is a fighter, and that those with him are brave.
That is a good point as well, though, because David is the most feared warrior in the land.
Yeah, but I'd also say, like, if you're telling your warriors to go fight for you, I think they already assume there might be some casualties. If they don't,
Right.
they're bad warriors.
I personally picked the first plan because it just seems like the most reasonable. Like, we're only going to assassinate the guy that's at the head of it, and we're going to try not to kill anybody else.
I'd agree. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Verse 11. So I advise you, let all Israel from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand on the seashore, be gathered to you, with you yourself leading them into battle. Then we will attack him wherever he may be found, and we will fall on him as dew settles on the ground.
That seems
I wish-
gentler than it actually would be.
I wish I had advisors who would give me poetic advice.
Can you imagine Patton weaving, like, Robert Frostian type poems before we go into battle? Instead, he's like, "Fuck people who look different! I'm Patton!"
Oh, Patton, you were the hero we needed, but not the one we deserved. You racist cunt. Neither he nor any of his men will be left alive. If he withdraws into the city, then all Israel will bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it down to the valley until not so much as a pebble is left. Dragging a whole city, even metaphorically, doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, that seems extreme.
Yeah, it's like that was a plot line in SpongeBob. Patrick wanted to push the city to a different place, and they did it.
Yeah, they definitely did it.
Patrick Star is in the Bible.
That's weird.
It's not that weird.
It's a little weird.
It's not that weird. Absalom and all the men of Israel said, "The advice of Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel." For the Lord had determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster to Absalom.
So, again,
Free will being fucked with. God knows that the first advice of going and just killing David would probably work and is good advice, but God's like, nah, I'm gonna make you not choose that. And in doing so, tamper with your free will and free choice.
the fuck has God been up to, though? Like, he's just kind of chilling. Is he just playing Xbox?
Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar the priests, Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do such and such. But that's the only time in the Bible I think I've heard them use the term such and such. The Bible in this sentence talks like your like 50-year-old aunt. Oh, we went to the mall and such and such.
At any rate.
But I advised them to do so and so. Now send a message at once and tell David, do not spend the night at the fords in the wilderness. Cross over and without fail, or the king and all the people with him will be swallowed up. Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying in En-Rogel. En-Rogel, what are these names? I bring this up every once in a while, but this Bible is like trying to tear my mouth apart. I hate it. I'm so bad at pronunciations. I can't do it. If anything's going to ruin this Bible study, it's the pronunciations of the proper nouns. A female servant was to go and inform them, and they were to go and tell King David, for they could not risk being seen entering the city. But a young man saw them and told Absalom. So the two of them left at once and went to the house of a man in Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed down into it. His wife took a covering and spread it out over the opening of the well, and scattered grain over it. No one knew anything about it. What about grain being over this is hiding it more?
So they had a well, and then she's like, I'll put a blanket over it after you climb down, and then she sprinkled some seeds.
She's like, that'll do the final touch. In fairness, women not educated at this time, so she was probably a raving idiot.
But she had one of the very few nice husbands at the time, and she's like, does it look good, honey? And he's like, yeah, it looks great. They're certainly not going to be found and murdered, and neither are we.
When Absalom's men came to the woman at the house, they asked, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" The woman answered him, "They crossed over the brook." The men searched but found no one, so they returned to Jerusalem.
It worked!
After they had gone, the two climbed out of the well and went to inform King David. They said to him, "Set out and cross the river at once. Ahithophel has advised such and such against you." So David and all the people with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By daybreak, no one was left who had not crossed the Jordan.
No one?
Not one.
Not one person is like, not feeling the Jordan crossing today.
And here's the best part. When Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his hometown.
Oh, he's going home.
He put his house in order, and then he hanged himself, so he died and was buried in his father's tomb.
That was God's fault.
So God made it so they didn't follow this dude's advice, and it depressed this dude so much he hanged himself.
To be fair, not a valid excuse to hang yourself.
No, and not only that, it wasn't a heat of the moment thing. It said he put his house in order, so he took the time to figure out, like, well, I better give everyone my keys and the passwords to my bank account. You know what I mean? It's one of those suicides where he writes out the passwords and
he cares about everything, but he's not.
Yeah, he's just over it. Depressing. And now we move on to Absalom's death, which is good because that means we're getting closer to David's death, which is great because I am over David and his shit.
I'm over Hasselhoff mostly.
Yeah. There's only so many pictures of the Hoff I can handle. There's like 3 ones that don't suck. No one wants to take high-res pictures of Hasselhoff because they know if you see what he really looks like, you're like, oh.
It's like Dorian Gray.
Yeah. David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. Absalom had appointed Amasa over the army in the place of Joab. Amasa was the son of Jether, an Ishmaelite, who had married Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, the sister of Zeruiah, the mother of Joab. The Israelites and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. Didn't you need to know all that information? Wasn't that so interesting to know the lineage? No? I know. When David came to Mahanaim, Shobi, son of Nahash from Rabbah of the Amorites, and Machir, son of Amiel from Lo-Debar. Lo-Debar! Remember that? That was a joke we made before.
Barzillai!
Barzillai.
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 That's an AI.
Okay, there we go. The Gileadite from Rogalim.
Rogalim.
I'm just guessing. I don't care.
Betting in bowls and bowels. Bedding and bowels.
Brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. They also brought wheat and barley, flour and roasted grain, beans and lentils.
Okay, they brought things. Let's move on.
Honey and curd, sheep and cheese, and cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said the people have become exhausted and hungry and thirsty in the wilderness.
So glad they got beans and honey. That's exactly what I fucking want ever walking through the desert.
We needed to know they got beans and lentils because there's such a distinction. I mean, I know there is a distinction, but within the context...
Not that far out.
I don't need to know those 2 separate things in the Bible.
Maybe they want to make chili and then also have Indian food the day after. I don't know what the plans are.
David mustered the men who were with him and appointed over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds.
Oh.
It's weird that he didn't... If this was like an army, shouldn't they already have a... Whatever. David sent out his troops, a third under the command of Joab, a third under Joab's brother, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, and a third under Ittai the Gittite.
Who we've never talked about.
But don't worry about it. Well, it's more important that we learn about the fucking lentils than we do who this guy is who led an army. The king told the troops, "I myself will surely march out with you." But the men said, "You must not go out. If we are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care. But you are worth 10,000 of us. It would be better now for you to give us support from the city."
And then David said, offended, "You think 10,000 of you could run this kingdom? You don't know what I go through."
The king answered, "I will do whatever seems best to you." He's a bad king. He's just doing whatever they say.
I don't know,
Be a despot, David. Don't change the script now.
You were fun. You used to be fun, David. Where'd the magic go?
So the king stood beside the gate while all his men marched out in units of hundreds and thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai to be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the troops heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. You're in a war with your son, dude. You can't do that. You can't be like, kill everyone except my son. That's favoritism, David. I won't stand for nepotism. David's army marched out of the city to fight Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. There, Israel's troops were routed by David's men, and the casualties that day were great. David's such a good king, killing all his own people to get the throne back.
He's the best
against
king.
their own will. The casualties that day were great, 20,000 men. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest swallowed up more men that day than the sword. Was it a haunted forest? What do they mean the woods swallowed up more men than the sword?
It was Jimmy and the boys!
It's just they're hiding in the woods, killing people, stabbing them. Stab, 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 and then they go
Stab,
back.
stab, Jimmy and the boys! Tell them we sent ya!
Now Absalom happened to meet David's men. What do you mean happened to meet
It's
them?
a
You're
war,
in a
it's
war.
how it works!
He was riding his mule, which is a great steed for a battle, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's hair got caught in the tree. He was left hanging in midair, while the mule he was riding kept going.
Okay, so I have a little bit of an issue. Besides the fact that he was riding a fucking mule, Absalom, if you remember, is a guy who grew like 5 pounds of hair and used to only cut it once a year. And apparently, it will be his undoing.
Yeah.
Because his hair was standing straight up and got caught in branches. And
Oh, you know, foreshadowing. They gotta have a clear foreshadowing in a story, so that's why that happens. When one of the men saw what had happened, he told Joab, "I just saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree."
And Joab was like, wait, like how?
Like, from a rope or like, nah, his hair? Oh, okay. Joab said to the man who had told him this, "What? You saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? Then I would have had to give you 10 shekels of silver and a warrior's belt."
A warrior's belt?
Yeah, it's like... that
Gives him plus 10 defense.
Yeah, it's like the WWE. You get the belt, and you get to be John Cena, which I guess some people don't like. I'm not a wrestler.
He has weird, tiny hands.
He has clubbed fingers.
Does he?
Yeah, if this was like House, that would be the what he figured out the diagnosis. At the last minute, he'd look at John Cena and be like, "Look at his weird hands. It's Munchausen's," which isn't that's a psychological disease, but
he would figure it out because he's House.
John Cena has it. But the man replied, "Even if 1,000 shekels were weighed out into my hands, I would not lay a hand on the king's son. In our hearing, the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, protect the young man Absalom for my sake." Even though it's a fucking war. What a ridiculous request, David. I hate you. "And if I had put my life in jeopardy, and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me." Joab said, "I'm not going to wait like this for you." So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree.
Wait, why did you have to say while he was still alive in the oak tree?
I'm more impressed that Absalom got stuck in an oak tree by his hair and couldn't figure out how to get out.
During the hour it probably took for the guy to ride all the way back to Joab and Joab to take 3 javelins, and then all of them went into his heart?
I'm assuming
one will do the trick.
He could have cut off his hair to get out of the tree.
I don't know, man.
Whatever.
He's just not good at things.
And then 10 of Joab's armor bearers surrounded Absalom and struck him and killed him. Lots of overkill. Very overkill.
Wait, so he had 3 javelins in his heart, but that didn't kill him. The armor bearers killed him after that?
Yeah, you know, he's like...
He was like the Terminator.
Basically.
With his hair, and he rode mules.
Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him into a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, the Israelites fled to their homes.
Oh.
I like that it's a big heap of rocks, like in Star Trek Generations. That's how Kirk went out.
Oh.
R.I.P., Nimoy.
Kirk.
I'll miss you, Nimoy. More than Kirk, probably. Even though Kirk's alive, but you know what I mean. When he does go... Shatner's gonna be a real bittersweet one for me because Nimoy genuinely seems like a really great guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sad to see him die because when people like that die, I'm glad that he was around and in the public consciousness and he was able to bring joy into people's lives.
There are very few people who I have seen say anything other than in a good memory of Leonard Nimoy after he died.
Yeah. Shatner, on the other hand, Captain Kirk, awesome. However, I've heard he's kind of a dick. So
yeah, I've heard not very good things about Mr. Shatner.
So Shatner, when he dies, I'll be like, man, I wish he had been Kirk. And that's, Shatner, I don't know, man. You could have been so great. Could have been so great. Not like in acting. You're not a very good actor, but the character you created is just amazingly weird and perfect.
I'm a rocket man.
What a weird guy. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's valley as a monument to himself, for he thought, I have no son to carry on the memory of my name. He named the pillar after himself, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. I don't have a kid, so here's a pillar, I guess. It's pretty similar. But that's the end of this story. Next week, or not next week, 2 weeks, whenever, or if you're watching this much later, click on the next video. We're going to talk about David's mourning, and maybe we'll finish 2 Samuel. I don't know. I don't know how many pages is it. No, we won't.
No.
Bummer.
Oh, we're probably gonna skip a lot of that though.
We're coming close though. We're getting close to the end of 2 Samuel.
Close. I'm edging.
So thanks everyone. If you want, you can always check us out on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
You can check Hugo out at Hugo Reloaded.
You can donate to our Patreon.
Yay!
Once we hit 1,000, we're gonna do the Quran Reloaded. We're
gonna
gonna
start doing the stuff for Quran Reloaded.
Yeah,
it's not gonna come out the day we hit
the
1,000.
day. No, it'll probably still take a couple of weeks after we get 1,000. And if it gets like 1,001, and then the next week it's like goes back down to like 800 because some people drop out, it probably doesn't count.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, the point is that we're probably gonna have to get more stuff.
Yeah, my laptop is about fucking shot. Like
Mine's not doing too well.
We're
either.
recording it right now, and literally the side is like popping off. And if this goes, I'm gonna have to use Jake's laptop and that's gonna be bad. So I really need to invest in that. But anyway. Not a big deal. Also, we're doing Bitcoin now, so if you use change tip with Bitcoin, you can always donate to that.
That sounds awful, though.
It's really not that big of a deal. You just put it in there, and I have an account on, what's it called?
Google Wallet.
No, not Google Wallet. It's you use Coinbase, and that's where it stores that, and then I use a different website. I forget what it's called. Or no, it goes into change tip, and then I have an account on Coinbase where it literally, you just push a button and it transfers the Bitcoins, it sells them, and turns it into cash in your bank account.
Weird.
It's not really, it's just, if you're into Bitcoin, it's a thing. Until next time, I think that's it. Oh, subscribe. There's a subscribe button.
Wow.
Oh, subscribe. There's a subscribe button. Press it. Click it. Clickety click, click, click.
You're all over.
I know.
All over the place.
I'm all over the place. Got things to do.
Do we?
I do. I gotta edit a video, so.
Oh, that's right.
Think about that, people. I gotta edit a video that you've probably already seen. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Recordings are weird, man.
It's like the butterfly effect, but not really even close. It's not really even close.
Alright, we've been talking for too long, so thanks everyone. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been the Bible Reloaded.
And next week we come up with a superhero worse than Aquaman. Aquifer Man.
Aquifer?
He can only operate in aquifers.
What's an aquifer?
It's like an outlet of water.
I did not know that. I learned about water today.